in as little as 24 hours. Now James can purchase a bigger oven. Miriam can hire the help she needs. And Leo can upgrade that gym equipment. Applying through Lendio is free and won't impact your credit. Learn more and see your options today.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace. There was a moment post-World War II where we had finally achieved world peace.
This video will make more sense if you've watched part 1 of this series where I explain the ending, because now that we know what it means to sit upon the throne, we can explore the stories of those who would sit upon it. And it turns out, the original king of Drangleic, Vendrick, was supposed to link the flame and sit the throne, but he never did, and when you acquire his soul, it is a soul of he who would link the flame. Queen Nashandra also makes reference to this when you visit her in the throne room.
In the rich recorded history of Great Britain, one period is shrouded in mystery and clouded by myth. After an occupation lasting nearly 400
His smile fair as spring, as towards him he draws you. His tongue sharp and silvery as he implores you. Your wishes he grants as he swears to adore you. Gold, silver, jewels, he lays riches before you. Dues need be repaid, and he will come for you. All to reclaim, no smile to console you. He'll snare you in bonds, eyes glowing a fire, to gore and torment you till the stars expire.
A god or a demon, a jinn or a mighty sorcerer, a devil or perhaps an evil spirit, or maybe just the very embodiment of evil, Master Mira, gone to her dim. Whom exactly are we talking about? Since the release of the Hearts of Stone DLC for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt game, the debate about the true essence of the Man of Glass has not subsided for a single moment. There were absolutely different theories in the fan community, because CD Projekt Red was able to come up with a truly unique character, one of the best antagonists in the history of video games. He is exclusively and deliberately polite and condescending. He will always come to the aid of a man in need. For his help, however, he will demand to be paid, a mere formality. All you have to do is sign a contract, and you can get anything you want: money, love, power, immortality. For Master Mira, there are no limits to what is possible, but in return, he expects you to pay with your soul. And no one still knows for sure who Gaunter Redeem is. So let's try to figure it out, because you're listening to The Old Witcher. We thank our patrons for the support as always, and we do encourage you guys to join their ranks.
A giant wall cuts through an ordinary neighbourhood in Belfast, 25 feet high. On one side, a Catholic population, on the other, a Protestant one. But this wall isn't just here because of religious differences. It's here because people on this side of it want Northern Ireland to remain part of the UK, and people on this side want it to be part of a united Ireland. It's called a peace wall, and there are many like it, carving Belfast up, separating neighbourhoods that were once at war with each other. because from 1968 to 1998, this was home to some of the most dangerous armed paramilitaries in the world.
Meanwhile, in Northern Ireland itself, the bombings were setting new records in horror, and an IRA explosives expert received a life sentence for murder.
One you might have heard of, the Irish Republican Army, or IRA, which spent 30 years fighting for a united Ireland. The conflict was called the Troubles, and would see over 3,700 people killed and almost 50,000 injured. We spoke to two men who fought on opposing sides. Michael, who joined the IRA in the 70s, and Billy, who joined the Ulster Volunteer Force, or y2deth, to fight against the IRA.
I'm Michael Culbert. I was in prison for almost 16 years. I was a life sentence prisoner. I was charged with various IRA-related activities, including killing members of the British forces.
My name is Billy Hutchison. I'm a former loyalist prisoner. I was in prison from 1974 to 1990. I was in for murder.
But before we get into that, you need to know about two groups that populate Northern Ireland. Irish nationalists, or Republicans, are those who want the unification of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. They tend to be Catholics. British Unionists, or Loyalists, want Northern Ireland to remain part of the UK, and they tend to be Protestants. So what's behind this divide? How does it link to religion? And why is Northern Ireland part of the UK?
File free in the app by 2/18. When you switch to TurboTax, do it yourself.
To find that out, we'll need to cover a bit of history. From the 1100s, Britain was attempting to colonise Ireland, and it faced some of the strongest resistance in the northeast, in an area called Ulster. So the British decided they needed.
Do you know what the British Army's longest ever continuous deployment was? Well, it was called Op Banner, and it ran from August 1969 to July 2007. More than 300,000 soldiers served as part of the deployment, and nearly 1,500 were killed or died while on operations. My British viewers will have grown up against the backdrop of the conflict, but viewers from other parts of the world may be surprised to learn that all of this took place on British soil, in Northern Ireland. Now, I'm not an expert on the conflict in Northern Ireland, but I do know there's been sectarian violence in the country for centuries. In the late 1960s, that manifested itself in very serious riots, especially in Londonderry and Belfast.
The rioting was huge. And the local police force, which is the Royal Ulster Constabulary, was a small local police force and just wasn't equipped or didn't have the manpower to deal with what were mass riots. And it was, petrol bombs and gunshots and so on. And after a while, the police simply couldn't deal with the level of trouble as it was. And so they called on the army to come in. So they came onto the streets. And at first, the Catholic population in particular was extremely glad to see the army because it meant that they were safe. The army's there and it's going to stop the Protestant mobs from burning us out, which at first is what happened, but unfortunately it turned south.